start streaming. Let's see if anybody comes back into this while I try to sort this mess out over here. It doesn't have the pop-out chat. This is really going to be a pain. This is a nightmare. Alright, I don't know if anybody will pop in or what's going on. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, everything just went completely down. I mean, it went down. The computer, everything completely went up. Couldn't ask for a better timing, huh? Says I have an excellent connection and everything. So, everything's sitting there. I got my feed. For some unknown reason, it's not giving me my pop-out chat, so it's going to be difficult. He's back. Yeah, I'm back. It's just, this is, yeah, you can tell the camera's even moved different now. I really hate to mess with it, but I'll get it moved around. Alright, yeah, that was, we'll wait to see if some people join in. Welcome back. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. It was, I was doing something, turning volume down so we wouldn't have some hissing on here, and then it was just like I looked up and everything was gone. And I can barely read the chat now because the chat screen wouldn't come back up. No, but it took everything down, then I had to reboot everything and go through the whole process. And then I had to unplug the webcam and everything to get it to all spool back up. That was a big pain in the butt. Is it Monday? Is it like a Monday or something I don't know about? So the drama. Oh. And it was funny too because everything wasn't necessarily working properly at first, and I got it all straightened out. And I thought, oh, I got this, no problem. So I have no idea. I'm not going to touch anything else really now that everything seems to have the semblance working. We probably lost half our audience in the process. Yeah, so it says average view duration. Now I'm getting to look at these stupid screens, which is 2 seconds. That means people last for 2 seconds and then they leave. I wouldn't blame them at this point today. So we're back in. Don't know what happened there. Have no, my apologies. How do you keep the dust from the guitars and the equipment? I wipe them off all the time. There is a few things like, you can't see the Fender amp. There's a few things that have covers. The guitars hanging up have to be used and wiped off. So there's no other way around it. And I need to get a cover for the mixer up here, the soundboard, because it doesn't have one, and I at least once a week have to wipe it down. Keep the dust down off of that, but it's not too bad in here dust-wise. It does get a little dust. There's not a lot of traffic from the dogs or anybody, so the dust tends to stay down. But it does, everything does get wiped down constantly. In fact, today, the guitar, this side over here, that ovation, God, it's so hard to do this. That ovation there, I pulled that out of a case, and I had to wipe it down. I didn't wipe it down before I put it in the case, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it was pretty bad shape. It was pretty dirty. And so I got that out, and I was messing with that for a bit and then cleaned it. But yeah, for the most part, they just get wiped down all the time. I look at them, and they never get too bad. They just get a little dust on the headstocks and just a little bit of light dusting, and then it usually, most all of it comes off. I have canned air that I'll use on them too, to blow dust off of stuff. But like I said, for the most part, nothing gets that bad. The thing that gets the worst is probably the Marshall back there, and Trevor's always working and doing stuff around there, and I noticed that I wipe that off more than anything else. But that's how I keep the dust down. So it's not Trevor's fault. I have no idea. Trevor's in Atlanta, so he was down. Actually, the debate last night, he was across the street at Olympic Park, something like that. He was at a convention there. Had nothing to do with that, but he was down there and could hear the president and Trump coming and going. So, but he was in a convention and doing something. There's a big Ferris wheel down there. But yeah, he was right across the street from CNN headquarters last night in a completely unrelated, different event. So, but yeah, so he should be back tomorrow. And I'm going to have to like lean away from the microphone because everything on the seat, for some reason, the pop-out chat didn't do what it normally does. And because I don't want to mess with stuff. Oh, yeah, see, I mess with stuff and things changed. Okay, it's supposed to say pop-out chat. I don't know. See, I'm going to mess stuff up. So I'll just have to lean far to the right to go down the screens till I find the pop-out chat. Actually, what I should do... Oh, shit, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. What I should do is this. Okay, I'll switch me to that screen and bring the chat up in front of me. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So now at least the chat's in front of me. So, and there is a little picture of me online, so I can do that. All right. Potential guitar knobs love to get all scratchy. Oh, the potentiometers. Most of that stuff stays clean if you're using it. And then there's stuff I use as spray. But I had one of those, and it actually wasn't that, but it's something else to do with that ovation I was talking about and the pickup in that, because I think it has a Fishman in that. And those things sometimes have little bits of problems because of the dirt and stuff. Uh-oh, adios amigos. Yeah, nobody has any faith in me. On the 90th anniversary video, that was all Trevor. I just walked with Greg and talked. Getting into monsoon rain. Yeah, we had one night. We got some rain. It did pour for an hour or so. And other than that, nothing. It wasn't a big storm. It just rained. It came in, and I didn't think it was going to rain at all. And then it came in pretty good for about an hour. Other than that, I haven't had much. It gets a little breezy at night, but that's about. So, I don't know. Hope Trevor sends some rain. I don't know what he'll send. Yes, I'm back. Hopefully everybody rejoins us and finds me over here. I don't know how it ends up on your end. I don't know what you can do. If it does a prompt that says I'm back online or what it does. Hey, I've been watching some of your videos about the LDM. What are your thoughts on the eye arch? It is the peak of Palomino between a lot of the guys back in the day, Palomino and the Eye of the Horse and that whole thing. God, I'm sorry, I got something in my throat. I've been all over Palomino. It's just a natural thing. It's a very cool mountain to climb. Be very careful if you go up from there. Hey, Dale from Prescott. Just be careful up in there. It's kind of interesting to get the perspective of that. You can get the perspective from there, down in the canyon, and up on Blacktop. So, but that was a big, Chuck Ayler and a bunch of people had a big deal about that. And I think it was because there was that supposed clue and just kind of got out of the horse's head and this and that. And then once Tumlinson had kind of created the stone map thing, then the horse's eye and this and that. And I think that was a little bit of it. But it was Palomino since I was a kid. Tom's not around. And I always told Tom Collenborn to do a book on the place names because he knew kind of how a lot of them came and how they changed and evolved. People didn't always listen to him, but he would tell you. And I never asked about Palomino, but I'm sure there was a good, not a story, but a rhyme reason for why Palomino got its name. And it probably had a different name and then kind of changed over. And all these guys, Ayler and all these guys, just called it Palomino or the horse's eye and stuff. I don't know if that really answered your question. I'm trying to go back up, see if there's anything I missed. People joining. We've lost a few people. I feel bad now. Glad you saved it. I didn't really save it. I just restarted it. Almost left outside myself. Okay, so I kind of got it. Okay, I think I caught up enough. Thank you for spending the time to sort through useful resources. I've definitely pushed away from Peralta Stones. Good for you. there's nothing wrong with kind of like going through. And you can, if you're going to take a very analytical kind of step back way method. I don't know why I've seemed like, oh, that's my chair. No, my chair's not sitting too low. Now it is. God, I gotta quit pushing buttons. I get my chair back up. I'm low on the screen because the camera's high. Now I'm gonna reach up here and touch the camera, probably mess everything up and lose the feed. But again, it's not if you're into something, but just be. I always try to tell people, and it's hard because people that get into the stone maps have a hard time with this. Be logical about it. Look at it from the, okay, what is this? What's the reason by it? Why did they tell the story this way? Oh, here's the spot they supposedly took it from. And then start going through. There's so much information, and the archives now, and if I was a stone map guy, I would make all of that. You know, I'm just, there's so much information that would make you just kind of take a pass on the stone maps in the archives now. The Historical Society and Greg Davis's archives. Thanks to a lot of people who visited with the descendants of the Travis Tumlinson. The problem is when you get to the diehard guys that put 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 35, 40 years, they don't want to hear it. They don't care. And you just are beating your head against the wall, and you're just like, you know what, I'm kind of done with it. I've sat there and explained it to people, and they said, but what about this? Because their theory, they have to be real according to their theory. And then the problem is telling them, but they're not real, and here's why. But then everything they've put all their time and effort into is no longer valid. And they have to have some validity to what they found, because they use the entirety of the stone maps and Travis Tumlinson's story and their interpretations to get to where they're at. And I kind of get that. They don't know how to turn around. It's hard to stop, pull the brake, take a breath and say, okay, start over. It's a do-over. So, okay. I enjoyed the music on the 90th. About what to do at old times. Think about landmarks. Funny as hell. How is the progress for your treasure hunting files going? Nice summer project. No, it isn't, because it's in the 110, and in the garage it's about 120. It's not very cool. I'm going through stuff. I just go out, and actually what I do, and I kind of quit this week, I just bring a huge stack of files in, probably about a foot high, and then I just go through them in here, and then I go back out and put them in, and I've been sorting that way and making and getting new folders for them in that way. Of the 6 cabinets, and let's see, 6 cabinets was it 5 drawers, 30 drawers. I'm about through a drawer and a half, so it's going to take a long time. And some of it actually will go pretty quick. Penfield had a lot of files that really don't have much in them. So once I get to a certain point, but I'm also trying to figure out how do I want to do them state by state, because it's 3 separate collections. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to separate the collections in a certain way or how I want to do it, because someone's going to want Penfield stuff. I find Xanthus Carson's stuff's probably the most interesting, and he probably was the least well known of the group. But his are really interesting. It just appears he never got the book deals in the 60s and 70s that the other guys did. So I am making my way through it, but it's just taking forever. Hey, Dallas. Hola. Gil Gold Prospecting, San Antonio, Texas, where every day is a golden day. Was Sutter's Gold Strike as big as the Dutchman? Well, yes, because it was the mammoth. Well, I would think it was pretty damn big, because that's the mammoth mine and everything that came out of there for Hakes and Morse and all those guys. So, yes, Centers was a big, big, big deal. And that's a pretty cool story. I know there's a gentleman was doing a script. He was doing a screenplay on that story and wanted to film it. I read the screenplay. The biggest problem I would say was, I don't know if the story really tells out well. I mean, as a whole, it's a really cool story. when I read the screenplay, I thought, man, this is going to be like a 3.5 hour kind of. I don't know if this will really be something that people want to do. And when you're looking at on the independent level of doing something, which more this would be, I was thinking, well, it's kind of more in terms of like 90 minutes. Well, how do you shrink this into that? So best of luck to him, but yeah, I don't know where he got with it. I got this. I got the screenplay. I read through it. Was giving him some feedback. I know a couple other people were there, and I don't know what happened, if nothing happened or what happened with that. Sounds like classic confirmation bias. What are your thoughts on the Three Red Hills? It could be anywhere. Because it's what. Here's the thing. They reinterpret. When he was telling them Three Red Hills, was he telling them Three Red Hills? Or. Because you're talking mainly him and Julia and Reinhardt were speaking in German. So because of that, the Three Red Hills. And then I remember there was supposedly from Brownie Holmes. Clay said it 3 red spots, and they were supposed to be 3 red spots, not necessarily. And they kept trying. This was like early 2000s. They were changing the narrative on it then. And I was like, well, you just have to be, what did he say? And you have to take Julia's and Reinhardt's interpretation. If he was speaking in German and he told them it was 3 red hills, you'd have to, they believe it was 3 red hills. How big were the hills? Were they larger hills? Were they smaller hills? Are we talking about you go up and you go, holy crap, those 3 little hills just fit perfectly? It's hard to say. And you could take it over where number of different places. So there, I know there's been several times I've went, 3 red hills. Yep, there you go. So it's on the interpretation of it and putting everything together. That's why I always say people tend to take the directions and stuff, use what they like, leave out what they don't like, and what works with their theory, and then get to a certain point, and then just ignore stuff that's probably more important. And, I've always said, there's interviews with people that give quotes or Herman Petrash quotes, and people use pieces of them because it supports their theory. And then they try to work around that, and it's like, well, okay, you can't cut the guy off and just say those words, I told Trevor I wanted to do, read a piece, an interview piece, and then point out that how it's been broken up to different people's theories, but nobody just reads it for what it is. I always say, okay, if the guy said this paragraph, we need to remember this paragraph. We can't just take this part of this sentence and this part of this sentence out of it and say, well, that's the clue. He said everything for a reason. Monday's episode should be cool. I'm hoping everybody will enjoy it. It's going to be different, and then I hope everybody sticks around on History Channel and watches that. Hey, Bowman's in. Can't wait to see the episode. Got that. Any new news on the Holy Stones? I don't know. I don't know where they all went. Frank has some. I have some. Greg, I think, has one. I have 3, I think. I don't know the cans. There was a bunch of cans of them, but I don't know where they went off to after Rick passed away. So, well, you could be wrong, Wayne. Well, I could be wrong on a lot of things. I've been told that all my life. What are the odds someone has already found the Dutchman? It's possible, but knowing human nature and the way people are, I mean, even the people that say they found it that might not have found it can't keep their mouths shut. So come on. That's the one thing I've never understood is people always say, what if some guy just found it and just wandered off? And I could say someone finding something, the ore nearby or something, and being close or kind of not knowing what it was or on it, and then just passed it on because he didn't have all the info. I could get that. He didn't go in and clean the mine out or nothing like that. That I could get more reasonable than someone really, really found it, because then you could run into the problem is like nobody can keep their mouth shut. Could be wrong. Okay, I'm getting down to you, Bowman. I was sorry. We're having a script problem. We dropped, and because we dropped, I had to switch the screens around because I don't have the normal pop-out chat where I have it kind of blown up on my right. It's actually in front of me, very small. So I'm trying to work my way around everybody. Waltz and worked a few feet along the gold. Waltz had came from those 3 or 4. Well, Walt says, and it depends on the variation of what you read and the bark notes, basically. Walt says they'd worked down. It was a pit mine, and it started to slope. It was kind of sloped and kind of angled out, and then went into the mountain. He said below there was a tunnel where it looked like they had originally thought they could intercept that funnel, but then they realized the vein was turning into the mountain, and they halted work on that tunnel because it was going to be of no use. The vein was turning away from it. And he said 18-inch locked in hematite and quartz. It was like popcorn kernels of gold all strewn through it. He'd never seen anything like it. You could literally break it off out of the matrix. It's very, very, and obviously he said it was a very special thing. He said the Peralta. Now you got to remember too, the Peralta story is they were working on, what was it, 7 mines, 9 mines. So there are these other mines, and the Apache story is they covered all those different mines except one that was high up. So they were operating on a number of different mines, and if you've been up there and looked at some of these older Spanish Mexican pit mines and tunnels, they're very small, they're very different looking, and they can be just scattered. They didn't need much room. They would work and operate in an area. So people's perception, I mean, one of the problems we have is it's kind of like you perceive something because of what you've seen. And historically, I mean, I was very surprised when I got back in the mountains and saw some of the older mines and stuff and realized, oh, it's much different than what I'd always pictured it in my head or from reading books. It was much smaller. There wasn't the timbering. There wasn't the adits you're thinking. They were following, something that was on the surface. They were following some. It's very, very different. Hold on. Let me catch everything up because I'm going to lose stuff. There's something named 3 Red Hill. Yeah, there's 2 different 3 Red Hills. There might be 3. I know there's 2. There's a western and then there's a central. I've researched, and there's the 3 Red Hills Trail. I've researched Jemisin's last treasure books, and most of them are rubbish. Okay. Gold Rides and Iron Horse. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, I started thinking Motorhead and Lemmy. And it's an Iron Horse I Ride. Hey, Wayne and all there. Hey, from KC. Can't wait to see Monday shows. Yeah, we briefly benched that. Yeah, the Monday show should be really cool. We'll talk a little about it. I don't want to spoil it. It'd be great for next Friday to kind of dissect it after that. Because I haven't seen what the edit and what they're going to put in. So hopefully it comes out really well. Did you say the news story where some crook robs the gold nugget from the store in Goldfield? Yes, I saw that. I saw the posts and everything on that. The guys, I saw the pictures of the guys. Don't recognize them. But did I see something? Did I miss something here? But I saw that. And for anybody that didn't catch any of that or isn't any of those news feeds, is that there was a fire. It came across the road from Lost Dutchman State Park. It was over by Ron Feldman's corrals. When it started to jump over that way, they decided to evacuate Goldfield. They shut the highway down. They were able to stop it before it crossed the road into by the gift shop and the stables. They got the horses out. The horses were all moved. And then Goldfield started watering down everything. But they evacuated the town, got everybody out of there, everybody out of the area. But it looked like everything was going to be fine. But when they were starting the evacuation and stuff, 2 guys, they got pictures of them on Facebook. If you go to Goldfield Ghost Town, there's pictures of them on there, but they got a couple different sets of pictures of these guys who I guess stole a bunch of stuff when the evacuation and when all the panic was happening. Dirt bags. So, but that's what happens, right? Yep. People are like that. Let's say someone did find the LEM. How would a general consensus from that it truly was the mine? Well, first it would be the matrix of the ore, and everything, things would match up. I mean, it would be a pit mine. It would be this. It would have the 18-inch. It would fit the narrative description, not the narrative from 1940, the narrative from 1932. It would fit the narrative of a number of things. I think at that point, if it really, really honed in, and it seemed like a done deal, you might be able to get something from the Spanglers or someone, the Ely family. You'd be able to kind of probably hone in on enough things. I think if you found that 18-inch vein and it just descriptive, it doesn't take, anybody can make a hammer and put Jacob Waltz on the handle and make it look aged. Anybody can do a lot of stuff. The gold, the matrix, everything fitting just perfect would make sense, that you would say, that was, that's exactly what they said. Because again, why would Julia and Reinhardt told Jim Bark, because he figured, shit, we ain't gonna find nothing. This is not the group to accomplish this. We are not the people for this. So he talked to Jim Bark, because Bark's running the range, and he's like, this guy might actually be able to do something. Would you do right by me? Then Jim talked to Julia, and then he talked to both of them again, and then Sims Ely did, and each time they were getting a story from them, no matter how wild or crazy or wacky you want these people to be, they were telling the identical same story. They had no reason to sit there and con anybody, get any money out of anybody, anything. They might have got a meal at the ranch, but they basically did it of, hey, this ain't working. You're out here every day, and your guys are. Maybe somebody will see something that helps us out. Maybe you'll do right by us because of this. So they didn't have anything in there, no reason to kind of like bullshit or lie or anything else. They weren't trying to get attention for it at first either. They were just frustrated. So completely different side than the Holmes side of things, where I think Dick Holmes just liked attention. That's why he went to the newspapers every time somebody got missing in the mountains, somebody died in the mountains. There was a Dick Holmes or Brownie Holmes story in the mountain about my dad and all this stuff. All right, so let's get down to someone. So, what is the Bark Notes version posting at your site? That's Al Reeser's. That's what Al Reeser got. There's no versions. The versions, when you hear versions, it really doesn't matter which version. I would say the only one I don't really like is the Probert version, because it has little footnotes he was putting in it because they were going to publish them. He didn't change anything. He just left it as it was and then added footnotes to it. Every version I've read, it's just someone fixing a spelling, because it was a manuscript not for a publisher. It was a manuscript, like a rough draft manuscript. So there was things that were going to be changed, spellings are going to be corrected. So when you read it, sometimes people typed the wrong thing, or sometimes people corrected what was typed wrong. From what I heard from someone, is the John Spangler version isn't much different than the Al Reeser version. There really isn't much of a version difference. It's just a couple words spelled differently, or there's no clues or nothing. So when you always think of versions, you're not thinking of versions of like, the Dick Holmes version and the Reinhardt version and this. There's no difference really. It's generally the same. There was, I think a couple of them is the order, which you could understand if they were in a hurry or someone was trying to, whenever somebody would borrow it or get a hold of them and try to copy them, they would do it in such a hurry. I think they got things out of order. Mine's Al Reeser's. And Al was one of the people that helped steal it when John Spangler had it in the mountains. So that's whatever version they copied that was there. And there's a couple copies. I've never found a difference. Someone told me this is a different version, and I really couldn't even find a spelling difference in them. So the version I have has one thing added. It has a little of the history about the Bark Notes at the beginning that was written by Greg Davis, which was added to it about how it kind of came to be in possession and so forth. And I think that's it. I think that's the only difference between it and most of the other. Like I said, it's spelling. It's a word or two. So you're not going to find much difference. If you went through it, you might find some spelling. I think that's all there is to it. Hey, greetings from Long Island. There you go. see that it is why me and Jim Hat and Joe had a debate for over a year. This issue heard of. No, see, and I liked Joe. I was friends with Joe, and I was friends with Jim. Joe and Jim were out there in their own boats at times, is the best way to put it. I liked Jim. Jim was a really smart guy and could come up with some really good stuff. And Jim would actually sit and listen to some stuff. But Jim had his box of where he was for his theory. That's where Jim was. And Jim could be difficult if something changed. He could be very difficult. Joe was very similar. And Joe was like over the top about some stuff and wouldn't hear of any difference or anything. Joe, mainly his interest came from the time he spent with his uncle and his family members back in the mountains and that history, and he just liked the idea of like when they used to get together and kind of treasure hunt, a bunch of people get together and go do stuff and just hang out. And Joe was like that. He liked the socialization, he liked the hanging out, he liked this. Joe under no circumstances was going to go out there searching for the mine anymore. He liked the social aspect, and he was a great host at that and feeding everybody and doing a great job. Jim was different than that, more of a lone wolf type, and like I said, I got along great with both. A lot of respect for both of them, but they would go off in their own little boats, and you would be sometimes like, dude, man, what are you talking about? And they liked, I hate to say it, but well, anybody that knew Joe Roboto will take this absolutely and laugh and smile and nod their head. Joe loved to stir the pot. So if Joe could possibly stir the pot and get something stirred up, Joe would do it. And Jim did it in his own way as well. So so they didn't mind. Jim's temperament was different, but they also both had bad tempers too if they got angry about stuff. Liked them both. They were very different, unusual. The world's a little different without them. But, you know, there's a lot of Jim stories, and there's a lot of Dutch hunters that didn't care for Jim. There's a few people didn't get along great with Joe, but I don't think there was anybody who could say they hated Joe. Joe was a pretty nice guy. Him and Carolyn would always treat people well in the end. Joe was a really sweet, good guy. He just was very opinionated, and his Italian nature would just come out. And, you know, just he had a personality quirk that rubbed people the wrong way. Once you got to know him, you let it go. He chewed me up and down more than once on stuff, and I just knew Joe, so I didn't even care. With Jim, I just knew how to talk with Jim, and I just kind of like realized there was things that could set Jim off, and I just stayed away from it. And that's how we all got along. And we all did get along very, very well. I got things from Joe, and I got things from Jim. And they were items that most people would be like, oh, that's not, you know. Jim had copies of the stone maps, or the Bilberry crosses, and we worked together on some stuff. And because he did not want to come to the rendezvous, I told him he could come and stay in my camp with me, and we'd be fine. But Jim never wanted to cause any problems with the people there because he liked what we were doing. And he gave me one of his sets of the Bilberry crosses to give away at the raffle, which we did. And the whole purpose was Jim wanted to give back to everybody. Good guy, and so he wouldn't. And he just kind of gave them to me and said, "Hey, I'll trust you that you'll do it at the raffle and all." And he asked me. He didn't even ask who got them. That was what was funny. We talked after that, and he never didn't. You know, I guess he knew that we would raffle them. Maybe someone told him, but it's a lot with them. I miss both of those guys. Have you ever been to the Heart Window Rock by Choya Tank? I've been to Choya Tank. That used to be a road, Dallas. Do you know that? It used to be a road all the way out there. There's a red rock mine just passed out by there. It's all red dirt and red rock and stuff. We call it the Red Rock Mine. And if you get up to it, next time I see you, I'll try to give you directions. Anyways, I followed a story on a woman who was a teacher at the Indian school downtown, and some Apaches were very grateful how she treated their children, and they gave her the directions and stuff, and she was driving a Model A or Model T all the way back there to that mine. She filed on it. Took a hell of a lot of work to find it because she had the claim papers in the wrong mining district and all that, but I finally found everything on it, and But she used to drive that car. School teacher would drive that old Model A or Model T all the way back in there to that, and was mining that at one point. Shoes went back there. He assayed it. Said there probably was halfway decent gold in it at one time, but there really wasn't anything left anymore. So I didn't go out to that one. But yeah, I'd been out to Choya. So let's see. I've read the bark notes have been altered throughout the years. Um, the Reezer. I mean, I have Al Reezer's version, and I've never seen anything different other than, like I said, some words spelled different where they corrected the spelling or they misspelled something. There isn't anything. Nobody ever bothered. Here's the big thing. No one ever bothered to change and say, well, her name's not Helena. Jim Bark in his letters says her name's Julia. So he knew her name was Julia. So no one ever bothered to change Julia's name or any of the names that needed to. So I always say it's just the only thing that's different between them. They weren't altered. It was just people in a hurry trying to copy them. And I have 4 versions, and like I said, a couple of the versions I've never really found any different outside of the one of the versions has an introduction, which none of the others do, which Greg wrote, and I know that. But the other, it's just the spelling on some words where I think someone corrected it. I got the Probert, which would make for another version, and the Probert version, I don't really see any difference either. And actually, I got another version because I got a bound version of them, and I'd have to look at it. I think they're Reezers. I think it's Reezers. So, but there isn't, I don't know. There's not much difference. And that was one of the things I thought when Thomas Glover talked about it, and I think he was talking about trying to publish that. And one of the discussions I had with him was, are you going to take it and correct the spellings and the errors and fix it? And then add footnotes about the corrections you did, or what would you do on it? And that was, I think, one of the things, the sticking points, of hard things with, is what do we do with it? Because it's kind of in a different place. Man, I lost 10 minutes at the beginning, but man, time flew by. I love the bark notes and talking about this kind of stuff. Very off topic. Does anyone here remember the band Loosely Tight? Yeah, the Livingston Brothers. Yeah, just asking. Yes, Rough and Tough and Renegade. I got their album somewhere. I wish I had it. Maybe next time I'll try to bring it down and all. But yeah, I have the album here somewhere. When they released the album, plus they had a couple singles here locally. They played at the Cow Jam. Yes, the Livingston Brothers. I remember when, towards the very end, Dino was kind of Reborn Christian and all, and put together a band and was playing. I saw him down at the Mason Jar, and he played, and kind of the end of the line. But they played a couple Loosely Tight. So he's playing completely different music, but he played a couple Loosely Tight. I think he was Reborn Christian, though. I think he'd changed. Something had happened, anyways. I do remember Loosely Tight, man. You're rough and tough, man. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. Dino and Danny, the Livingston Brothers. I love the discussion group. Thank you, Abe. That's not said enough. Nah. Is there anything interesting in Walter Gassler's manuscript? That's one I'm going to sometime explore, because how it popped up, and a lot of things popped up on it, I think not enough time has ever been taken to pull that whole thing apart. The rhyme, reason, and why of some of it. I have some suspicions and some problems. I have a lot of suspicions and problems with some certain people's attachment to that stuff, too. And because of their attachment and why don't you post all the mark notes? They are sitting. See that pile of papers right there behind that base? That's what remains of the last of the postings. Trevor is typing those all out and putting them online. I also want to read them and then have an archive of where you can just listen to the audio of those and some other manuscripts. Trevor wants to finish that first, and that's where he's at. Trevor's not here because Trevor's in Georgia, and he's in Atlanta, and then when he returns from Atlanta, I will get him back. But he's going through, typing all that stuff out and putting it up. So that's a Trevor question for the website and stuff, because really, as far as that, he goes, that's a great idea, let's put those up, and then I just step out of it. So I can tell you, one of my copies is there. It was the one that Al Reezer's, and I just told him take that one. Like I said, there's several others all over. I thought he was going to scan it and post it, but he decided to retype everything. So Okay, Bart never knew the mine was in that area. Same way I found it. Okay, we got Walter Gassler. Well, and that, again, the 4 bark notes and whatever I have and stuff, they're not that much different. It wouldn't really change things. Um, I'll go through and see what the comparatives are. Anybody? I'll talk to Thomas Glover too, because I know he had 7, and he found 7 variations in all 7. But I think they weren't variations like you think. I think it was misspelling of a word, or using the wrong word, and they wrote down the wrong word. So, because he minimized all that stuff too, so there's no real difference between all of them. Okay, why don't you? Okay, we got to that. I can tell you if one of those 4 are the one I saw. Yeah, but here's the problem. Anybody could take them and then redo their own version and start circulating because they've never been sold. If someone sold it to you, they're an asshole. Every version I got was free. I didn't even have to pay for the paper or the printing or anything. Everybody always gave me a copy, so I kept collecting copies, and then I kept finding it was really just I was getting the same thing. I saw Proberts, and I made a copy of Proberts at the Arizona room at the Burton Bar Library. And then I realized, well, I'm just copying the same thing, where people might make footnotes and stuff. But, okay, anyways, I'll take it under advisement and see. But, yeah, Thomas might have wrote something on that because he was doing that. And it'd be interesting to see what the differences are. I just remember there was misspellings and stuff, and I didn't find anything major in them. And I can't remember what the other... I'll have to go look through my files because really, like I said, the Reeser ones were the best complete version, so I just went with that. And Al was one of the original people that copied them from John Spangler. John Spangler let other people copy them, so I'd have to go through those letters and see who those people were and see if they broke their promise to Al and copied those, and if there are even more copies. What's wrong with Helen Corbin's Bible of the Lost Dutch of Mine? Oh, you want to open a can of worms. They're available at Burton Bar. Yeah, the Burton Bar Library in the Arizona room. That's the Probert version. Haven't seen your videos in a while. How you been? I've been good. It's Kevin from Massachusetts. How's it going? You must be in a heat. Yes, 110 degrees today. But you're just not saying anything. What I'm talking about is not a misspelling. Okay. The Bible. That's a Bob Corbin story. And that's not a story I really want to get into. Let's just say someone decided to make shit up. And when you make shit completely up and lie about everything, you keep trying to dodge the lies. And what was happening was it was just kept altering the reality of the situation, and the person kept stumbling and falling down the cliff. It was like a cartoon, like watching Bugs Bunny or something. It was kind of Wile E. Coyote, but and then more and more stories became of it. The person, they didn't realize, because nobody 25 years ago thought the internet and what we have today would be, where you could literally come up with so much information. And this person did not realize, looking to the future, of what they did was they basically kept thinking, if I just delete it, it's gone. Well, people were making copies of it. People were remembering things he said. It kept going and going, and it's like, literally, if you have, we're talking about Barton Notes versions, this person had these different versions of where he came from and who he was, and it just got ridiculous because we were all starting to get kind of like nice person, smart person, good researcher, liar. And what happened was Bob realized, he went and investigated. Bob Corbin, who was the former state attorney general, who was the president of the NRA and everything else, felt completely embarrassed how the wool had been pulled over his eyes. He thoroughly investigated. This person will say, oh, it's a lot of bullshit. I was allowed to look at some of the investigation files compared to what he had said. Not only just the information about he himself, And I just kind of like went, I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to. How do you deal with someone after that when you're going to be around them? So I kind of like figured if you just are nice to me and polite to me and we don't go there in this Dutchman stuff anymore, we're fine. And so it became kind of a thing, and there was a number of people that really wanted him to be just strung up. It was bad. And that was the problem. The problem was the information basically that he lied to people, then he tried to lie about his lies, then he tried to lie about the lies, and it got so bad Bob pulled the book and just didn't. Now the first book, Curse of the Dutchman's good, that's fine, and I don't know why Bob didn't just put that back out. Maybe he was so sick of it all by that point. But it's a very, very sad story. That person might watch these, and he knows who he is, and he knows I know what I know. And it's just, there might come the time where we just talk about it and just let it kind of like unspool. It's going to hurt a lot of people because how he's hurt people over time. And it's really, really wrong. Oh, great. I'm buffering. Excellent connection, it says. But am I there? YouTube, I'm going to have to check to see if I'm even live. Oh, what is it doing? Where is this? I don't even know where I'm at. Am I back up? Somebody tell me if I'm back up. Okay, man, I figured there was something. Okay, I wasn't sure if like what was going on, but if everybody got all that, um, just really a sad, sad place. Um, and I don't even know how to say it, because you know what, when you become, and everybody was friends with someone and then they realize that person, it's just, it was so wrong. And the person did a lot of damage to a lot of history because of that. There's people here that believe things that I try to deter them from because that person just made crap up. And they made crap up with me and then forgot they told me made up crap and made up more crap. And when I tried to go to them and say, hey, I found this, and I didn't do it to prove them wrong. I was just doing it and saying, hey, I found this. Maybe this is what they were getting angry with me, and I didn't understand it at first, why somebody had a problem with me. So, anyhow, so that's that. And I don't know. That was too much. That was more than I've talked about that. But the book was pulled because of all that. And just so many people just, it was sad. It's still sad, and that person still will have no problem with just telling you just absolute crap to your face. And that's the sad part, is they're not a habitual liar. They're a pathological. There's just something wrong with the person in every aspect of their life concerning that. And it's not just Dutchman stuff. It goes way deeper beyond that. And I always thought the person would change a little, or just kind of be like, oh, I'm really sorry, man. Da, da, da. But no, not to the end, to the very end. And it's been 35, 40 years of that crap. So, I don't know. One day, maybe. I mean, it would make a great... I don't know, because I think it's just so ugly of what the person's done in their life. You don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. I did it to make sure I was right and how I felt. And that made sure that the people... And I felt bad for that. I wanted to make sure that the people that told me things weren't feeding me just their perception. They were feeding me the reality. And when I found out that, it really, really was that bad. Yeah, that was sad. So, hey, well, let's get this up on a better note than that. Where Bart got the wording could have, well, he dictated it to somebody. I don't know how much, we don't know where his handwritten notes and how that all worked. The feed didn't stop. Yeah, maybe it's just because I was sitting here intense and I thought it stopped. When are we going to Bluff Springs for a week or 5 weeks? I don't know if I can spend 5 weeks up there. A few days, a week would be nice. Gilgold Prospecting's bugging out. Horses and dog feeding time. You should teach the dogs. Get good dogs that can feed the horses, and then you'd be fine. All right. Everybody, Sky Cloud, enjoy yourself. The old adage, it is what it is. No, it is what it is not what I was talking about before. That is not fit that. That was, you do so much damage and so much harm to so many people, you shouldn't. And when people really care about something and they invest their lives in it, and you really, like I said, it's very, very sad. Carne asada and nacho Friday. I'm having chimichangas because I had pizza last night, so I get chimichangas tonight. So it's chimichanga night. 5:04. Okay, it's 5:04. We're moving along. We'll do a little more here because we lost a little time. Chuck from Tuscan. Hey man, how's it doing going in Tucson? That other place south of Phoenix. But no, thanks everybody to the bargain notes today. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. See, I don't even want to, Bob Corbin agreed to talk to me and give me his files and said if I wanted to do something on that whole thing. He had letters and emails and stuff. I have letters and emails from other people concerning all of it. And they said if you want to do like a 3-4 part series on it, what happened and what. And I just decided, you know what? It just sucks because it makes you feel like, like you can't trust people that and you think are good people. And you just realize they're really, we all make mistakes. There's no problem with that. I'm fucking shit, dude. We all do that stuff. But that was like, the game from that was just basically really, really wrong. It makes you feel like it was almost done with evil intentions. And if we ever get in the story, the people that have met the person and know the person and then hear it, it's just, I think it's mind-blowing. It's gotten to the point where some of us sit around that know the whole thing and it just like look at each other's like, I still can't get it. We don't know why. It's just like, is it a disease? Is it a mental illness? What is it? I've talked to that person, some family members, like his children, and if he's watching this, that's going to cause his toes to curl, and they really don't understand him either, and that's sad. So I really hoped he would kind of just drop everything and just be a normal good guy, and I think he's kind of staying in a safer zone now. And that was fine to me, but yeah, for what he did dirty to Helen and Joe Roboto and a number of other people, a lot of other people, I could go through a long list, it's kind of unforgivable at a certain point. So, any reason more people didn't search for Center's Gold? I think it's because a lot of people didn't know about the story. It wasn't until Tom wrote a story about it, nobody really did anything. And then Tom and Bob, they're not going to tell everybody the story at first. They were searching before they told the story. Then Helen decided to do the book on it. By that point, they'd covered a lot of ground up there and had a lot of stuff going on. So I think that was the reason you didn't hear about a lot of people covering it. And then people later, we were up there. There were people searching for it. And I did when I was younger. There was a group I talked about. I'm pretty sure that's what we were doing. So there's people that have searched for it and went up there and looked around. It's just once you get up there, you realize there's just so many places, and kind of you have to know certain things where Tom and Bob, and they know that the horse went over and stuff. You're just kind of looking at that. Now, I know there's some people that found some gold down in that canyon. Is it the same? I don't know. you would hope they would have saved samples and went and tried to analyze it against mammoth ore or something, but I don't know. So, Dallas, did they really find that Spanish armor in Spanish graveyard at Castle Rock? I don't know about that. A funny story is George Collenborn, Tom Collenborn's dad, they found some Spanish armor and some stuff in an old mine tunnel by Bluff Springs, and it was a huge deal. And then when he got home and he started to really look at it, he realized it was a piece of shovel, a round piece of shovel for a mucking. There's been a number of different stories. That's just the one that's more popular. There's 3 or 4 places supposedly. I know 1, 2, 3. That's the 4th story. I know a 5th story. So there's 5 stories I know in 5 different places people have seen pieces of supposed some armor. One I kind of feel strong about, and I want to go out and maybe you'll join us out there one day. Is there's a spot I want to cover because I was told there was a little cave or shallow cave or something, and someone found some stuff, and they just left most of it there, but they took some of it, but they really didn't know what to think of it. And I was kind of surprised, but it was an area that Randy Wright and I really had strong suspicion if there were Spanish or Mexicans, it would be an area they would have been around, things about there. And so I never was quite reconciled to everything, but yes. So that there is one spot I really want to check on that, but I don't know about the Castle Rock one because Tom's dad kind of threw that out there. Said you find an old rusted piece of shovel, maybe that some people thought it was armor. To find Center's gold, you have to take the quick way down from the flat iron. If he had the gold on him, if he'd already picked it up, if he stuck it there. It's raining here, and yeah. All right. Well, good for you. It's good that it's raining. It's not raining here. Any more? I agree. No one. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. So we kind of get out of that whole thing before, though. But Center's Gold's a cool story. Yeah, the Spanish armor thing. I know one I can't tell the story of. Well, 2 I can't tell the story of because I've been but neither one I really have much. They're more in the northern, western range area than one's farther south and the one's not as far as south. So. But they all seem to be in the Western Superstitions, which is kind of odd. But they don't interrelate. None of the people are interrelated in any of that. So if you had to rank the top 3 most likely locations, what are your thoughts? Well, because so much has changed, because so many people have been through there the last 100 years digging and tearing things up. And we're not looking at the terrain and the ground of anything similar to what I saw as a kid, much less what someone saw 100 some odd years ago. Something about Bluff Springs Mountain, and whether it's the Needle Canyon side or LaBarge side, there was so much activity, and all the early searchers showed up in there, and I noticed so many searchers came back to that area, and there's so many old mines at the base of those mountains. They're almost all collapsed now, but there was a lot of activity there. That would be one spot. Another spot that always gets me is south of Lost Dutch Canyon and Fish Creek. Not all the way down to Rogers Canyon stuff, but if you go down to Tortilla and down Lost Dutch Canyon and go down south in Fish Creek, there's a lot of red rock, red dirt. It's just something about that area feels, It doesn't seem to fit things, but there's something about it that feels. And the weird thing is, outside of 2 people I know that were very heavy into that area, and we're talking about a mile or so, mile and a half, 2 mile stretch down going south, the only 2 people I know that ever was searching in there and were filing claims and really interested in that area were Reinhard Petrash and Herman Petrash. So it just kind of like always makes me go, what were they thinking being in there? So maybe that's kind of in the back matrixing in my mind. Then I like that area north up into Hackberry because it just seems like See, I always keep it in my mind where Walt says nobody's, you got to take it like a cowboy's not going to get there. This person's not going to get there. It just doesn't make sense. Prospector's not going to be looking there. And that's what leads me into some of that is you're just, um, it's just different. Yeah, Ed, the Fish Creek I'm talking about is far south. It's beyond the bridge, down by Tortilla. A lot of the Fish Creek we filmed was the Fish Creek up north of there, which it's all beautiful. It's pretty rugged and beautiful. But yeah, but the area I'm talking about, people you occasionally see some people out there. You don't see a lot of people. It's kind of remote. It's kind of different. But those areas, I don't know. I know that the two are really good. It's just kind of when you get the feel, you kind of get somewhere and go like, I wonder if, it's not necessarily something you see or anything, but sometimes it is the mining activity you see in the air. That kind of draws me into Bluff Spring because there was so much there, and when I was a kid, I mean, we were still probably 100 years out from Walt's being in there, maybe. Oh, sorry, I'm going to move that chair back. But we're 100 years out from Walt's being in there, but it's still, to me, kind of like I realize how much things are. Now I see how much more things are changing, so who knows what places look like. I'm not a fan of certain spots, but, Whiskey Springs, too, there's kind of spots in Whiskey Springs, but see, there was so many people camped and doing permanent camps in Whiskey Springs. Bluff Springs is weird because, again, it was a place that it was Bark and Ely and Bark, and then George Columborn and Herman Petrash and Herman and Reinhardt and Julia. And you just kill layer after layer every 10, 15 years, another group. That always really catches you, It's like people kept returning, and like I said, I made the thing about Al Reeser and John Spangler before John died, and then returning to Bluff Springs and filing claims. Most of the time, the Dutch hunters have been the mountains. Some of the guys that like to talk the history tell that would like to talk the bullshit. But it's weird. But yeah, it's that sense. But like I said, it's one of the theories I thought I had a good theory is like start locating some of the other mines and then start trying to put them together, see if something will match up map wise, and then try to figure it out where they're all at. And yeah, good luck on that. They didn't, because then the problem was so many people monkeyed with so many places and things that you're not quite sure age correctness. I mean, you can't be the forensic geologist that can figure that out at a certain point. So it's like, and it's people like saying LiDAR. LiDAR's not going to tell you anything in there on that kind of stuff. It's just, it's almost when some of it is just get lucky. Nope, Jax just decided to come in. I guess it's time to quit because Jax just burst the door. And here comes Rocky. It's the end of Rocky. No, don't get under there. No, we had enough problems earlier. All right, so we're going to wrap things up because the dogs just told me it was time to wrap things up. And we're going to get on to Chimichanga Friday. So there we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining in with us. I'm having a good time. I got to remember, I got to stop streaming over here because everything changed. The first gorge on the south side from the west end of the range. Did that come from Bicknell's? I think that came from Barks Notes, didn't it? The first gorge on the south side. I don't know which one that was. I'll have to look at it. You got to remember, all these guys talk to each other. So when people wrote articles and stuff, they quoted from other people's stuff and other things people said, and yeah, it gets a little murky. It is odd because we'll have to go through the clues. I'll have to write out the bark note clues, and we'll have to go through those step by step. So we'll have to push that. So we'll do that maybe next week after that, or maybe after we do this next episode. But everybody, please join us on Monday, July 1st. And check out the Chasing Legends episode about the preview to History's Greatest Mysteries with Lawrence Fishburne, and then catch us later that evening on History Channel, History's Greatest Mysteries with Lawrence Fishburne. Until then, we're going to get out of here. I'm not going to play any music. I'm not going to mess with anything, because if I do, cut the feed, even though it's time to cut the feed anyways. So that's kind of weird. I have to look over to the, yeah, I'm crossed up, man. Everything's backwards today. But that's my fault, not your fault. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday twice. You get to see me twice with my hair all pulled up and looking sharp. Button-up shirt, too. So can't wait for everybody to give me the feedback on the episode. I hope it turns out well. I put a lot into it. We didn't talk much about it, but we got plenty of time to talk about it afterwards. Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend. And thanks again. You're awesome, brother. Play that damn guitar this weekend. Oh, I will. Okay. Tucson. Thanks, Wayne. Good weekend. Oh, everybody have a great weekend. I am out of here. Hey, Bowman. Have a good one. Okay. Catch everybody later. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's also believed that the reason Adolf Ruth had Bicknell's article is because Sim Zeeley sent it to him, which is weird. I remember that theory. That was a weird one. But he was talking to people, so... Anyways, let's go get out of here, and we can go our conspiracy theories and our other ways and this ways, and next week I'll try to put together a little list. And Bowman, I will try to start pulling all those. I will go out in the boxes and dig through and try to pull out different variations and see what I can find for you. Until the next time, everybody.